The terrible monster opens a red eye that seems to be filled with blood. Paws with long and sharp claws, it steps on the ground, provoking explosions and earthquakes. When the creature opens its mouth in a scream, filled with sharp fangs, a squad of young people armed with swords and staffs remain standing in place, while the intention to defeat it is red in their eyes. The monster reaches out to them with terrible paws and says angrily how mere mortals dare to challenge this. Despite the shaking from the split of the earth, the brunette first moves back, then pushes off the ground with his feet, clenches his teeth tightly and jumps forward. On the fly, he raises his sharp sword and in a few swings cuts the terrible lizard into several parts. Then he calmly lands carefully while the monster, like his sword, disappears. The guy remains sitting near a huge hole in the ground when a red piece of paper appears in front of him. At the same time, the resulting system window states that a fragment of a dragon's blood scroll was received. The guy with a warm smile on his face takes it, and then 8 more similar objects appear in the air next to him. The system specifies whether he wants to combine 9 fragments of scrolls. Yes or no? The next moment, all the scrolls begin to swirl together, forming a fiery whirlpool, and abruptly merging together, leaving only a small flash. But the system window rings and congratulates him on obtaining the 5-star legendary dragon blood scroll. A bundle of paper tied with an orange ribbon lands on the brunette's hand. The guy happily looks at this, when suddenly another of the long-haired men stabs him with a knife and finally says that he is sorry, but he will take care of the scroll and Jojo instead of him. Before dying, the brunette only manages to say his name, Mu-chen. He feels that he has won, and the guy falls into the pit when the system announces that the player Zhang was such a critical hit skill in Mu-chen's game and lost 3268 million health points. The system discovered that he had no possibility of resurrection. He died. This can't be. Apocalypse is a virtual reality game that was created by 1,000 of the best designers around the world, costing 3 trillion yuan and took 5 years to create. Apocalypse is a modern action game that tells about the period of the mid-21st century when alien monsters invaded the Earth through wormholes and attacked people. The battle between the two sides caused severe damage to the Earth's ecological environment, and all non-human beings living on it were infected and began to mutate. And a person will not be able to avoid disaster if he does not enter the game. All players who do not enter the game will be forcibly killed by the Apocalypse system and will become NPCs in the game world. However, after the launch of the open beta version of the game, all players who entered the game encountered one problem. They couldn't get out of the game and had to stay in it forever. Zhang Yi, clicking on the system window, which says that there is no way to exit the game, exclaims in panic. Why can't he exit? At this moment in the real world, he, like other people who run away in horror, disappears. He suddenly realizes that he has been in the game for 8 years. And just like that, his best friend and lover betrayed him. He can't accept it. Sharply opening his eyes without sitting on the bed, he screams in horror, Mu-chen, Jojo, why did they betray him? But looking around, he notices an alarm clock, from which comes an announcement that the gates of the Apocalypse world will open in 2 hours and 12 minutes. Are the players ready? Zhang Yi looked at the date and said in bewilderment, August 28, 2025. Taking it in his hands to see for sure, he thinks it is impossible. At that time, the apocalypse had not even been imagined yet. But then he goes to the window and opening the curtains sees a city filled with neon signs and a street, and then people walking. He understands that this means that he has returned to a time when the game was not yet announced. Remembering how Chen killed him, he clenches his fists and resolutely thinks he will make him pay with his life. After sitting down at the laptop and quickly typing something on the keyboard, Zhang Yi also notes that now the most important thing is to find the divine talent cards scattered around before the start of the game. Having typed into the search engine the phrase divine card of desire, he clicks on search. In the apocalypse, the system will randomly grant all players a talent when they enter the game. Rare divine talents can only be activated by finding a talent card in reality. Sky Fortune, the developer of Apocalypse, released 10 divine talent cards that were randomly scattered around the world. He reasons if the card locations remain the same, then the closest divine talent card to him will be on the roof of the Jinmao building, the tallest commercial building in Linhai City, Not wanting to hesitate, he actually heads there, running past calmly walking passers-by and climbing onto the roof. Having arrived, Zhang Yi sees that in the middle of the roof, a small map illuminated with yellow light is floating in the air. He happily remarks, he was right, the map is indeed here. An alluring glow emanates from this, when suddenly someone distracts him from behind. Lu Cheng's, pointing his finger at him, shouts that this entire building belongs to him, including this map. But Yi, looking at him over his shoulder, coldly replies, whoever is first gets the card. At the same time, he remembers that this guy is the owner of the last divine talent card in his past life. He is the heir to the largest real estate company in Linhai City. Unexpectedly, people with machine guns approach him and immediately open fire. That moment when the bullets fly out of the barrels, the man standing at the head of the shooters shouts mockingly, he will show this idiot the consequences when they take away what belongs to him. The sound of gunfire is heard in the air, and dust rises from the concrete floor of the roof. Zhang Yi stands there while the pallet is rushing around, so close that it almost touches him. A small fence appears in front, through which he receives everyone who bought it. Link again to the wristwatch, he sees that it shows the time 11 hours, 59 minutes, 55 seconds. Pushing off the floor with his feet as hard as he can, he jumps up and stretches out his hands to the card. Lu Cheng's, seeing this, immediately points a gun at him and shouts that the freak should not even think about taking his card. But Zhang Yi already grabs it, and then he becomes enraged and shoots at him. The bullet almost reaches Yi, when suddenly a blurry image of someone appears nearby. And the clock changes from 11 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds to 12 noon exactly. At one moment everything freezes, and above the city, from a mysterious circle that appeared in the sky, a huge silhouette descends. A man in a strange suit, and a huge mouth filled with sharp fangs, waves his hand and announces, the game has begun. Just at this moment, Zhang Yi grabs the card and, looking ahead, sees that a system window has appeared in front of him, which clarifies whether he wants to enter the apocalypse. Yes or no? Without hesitation, he clicks on the positive answer, causing him to be immediately surrounded by a stream of air, and he dissolves. Player data is being loaded. Data is being loaded. At the same moment, all the people in the city who are just playing in computer clubs or crossing the road disappear, and the mysterious man creates a glowing ball in his hand and exclaims, they must go towards a world designed especially for them. The eyes open with an oblong pupil that looks like a blade. Yi, with complete determination in his eyes, looks at the small pyramid with this eye and says, the apocalypse must know that he has fully returned. A bright seal suddenly lights up between two stone pillars, and he asks out loud, a divine talent card? And after taking a few steps, Zhang approaches it and again stretches his hand forward, reaching for the card. When snow-white feathers begin to fall on him from above, he realizes that he has finally received it. A girl with angel wings and long golden hair appears in front of him and says that she is glad to welcome him to the apocalypse. The system window that appears shows his name. He is about 22 years old. In the profession column, it is written that he is unemployed. The girl continues. She welcomes player number 8857 to the game Apocalypse. She is his unique gaming spirit. She congratulates him on obtaining a rare divine talent card for the player's own use. Yi at this moment is really holding it, shimmering with gold. Another system window talks about a skill called for own use. This skill copies the talents of other players. Recharge time is 1 hour. The game has 3 camps to choose from. Camp of elves, animals, and people. The player can choose the camp he wants to join. He thinks about her words. In the previous game, he chose the human camp. Human camp players can increase their prestige ratings by 20%. Moreover, in the apocalypse, the most important thing is prestige. The playful spirit extends his finger and, as if pressing it in the air, notes, by the way, she has something for him. Then she hands it over to Zhang Yi, and he exclaims in surprise, a dragon blood scroll? How did it get here? Following this, he remembers, funny. The item that Mu Chen wanted to get in the end still belongs to him. Then the girl announces that the system has discovered a dragon blood scroll. A huge dark blue lizard with yellow eyes and an evil grin comes out to them. The system then announces that a hidden dragon camp has been discovered. He frowns and wonders, is there a hidden camp? In front of him, instead of an eye, a blue portal appears on the pyramid, to which he reaches out his hand. He is immediately engulfed by electrical discharges, and he disappears inside it. In the train car, small streams of smoke fly in the air and system windows flicker everywhere. At the same time, people appear inside who look around with interest. Zhang Yi, also moving there and examining everything, notes that everything has also begun. A guy in an orange jacket with a naive smile exclaims, "The game design is truly amazing." Another man in a white t-shirt, turning to his friend with green hair, impatiently says, "When will they start killing monsters?" He's really looking forward to it. At this moment, the train turns out to be derailed, while black smoke rises from under its wheels. He understands at this moment that he needs to check his status first. He opens his characteristics, which say that he is at the first level. He has no profession. His race is dragon. His chances of resurrection are 0. Among his talents, there is only 1 talent for his own use. His strength is 3. His height is 15 stars. Intelligence is 3, and height is 15 stars. Stamina is 2, and height is 15 stars. Agility is 3, and height is 15 stars. The physique is 5, and the height is 15 stars. The next window indicates that Uraz and dragons have a unique skill. Hell Dragon Flame is at the first gold level and is passive. Every time the player performs a normal attack or uses a skill, there is a 1/10 chance of summoning a Hell Dragon, and all enemies within range will receive 150% of the player's attack power as damage. After reading this, he reasons that this is not bad, even though the chance of this passive skill triggering is somewhat low, and the effect of this is almost as good as that of a Divine Talent card. Now he must familiarize himself with his Divine Talent card. It's time to copy someone's skill. While the sun is shining brightly in the sky, a bald man is in a train carriage, approaching 2 guys, talking to each other, shouting. With him on the team, they can relax. Suddenly someone stretches out their hand to him and puts it on Zhang Yi's shoulder. While doing this, mentally adds, his target will be him. The man is surprised and abruptly throws his hand off his shoulder and shouts, "Is the guy looking for a fight?" He apologizes with feigned embarrassment for confusing him with someone else. But after the system window appears, it is announced that the Epic Talent Treasure Hunter has been successfully copied. This involves the ability to locate nearby treasure chests within a 500-meter radius. You read the whole thing and thinks it's a good epic level. Suddenly someone's voice comes from the speakers in the carriage, and a man in glasses, sitting opposite the microphone, says that he is glad to welcome them all to the apocalypse. His warriors should enjoy the game with all their hearts. The skiing man calmly heads to the window of the carriage, when suddenly he is stopped by the hand of Yi, who hurries to notify him that he should act rashly. It's very dangerous outside. But he pushes him aside and replies flippantly that it's just a game. Shouldn't be afraid. Then he disassembles the window frame. Then, not noticing the evil silhouettes outside, shouts to those remaining inside that the guys can just hide here and watch her. But as soon as he jumps out, he immediately falls into the mouth of a huge spider monster. The system window announces that player 13580 has been killed by a giant spider. It was discovered that player 13580 does not have the ability to resurrect. Player 13580 is dead. The brown-haired man, who saw everything that happened through the window, grabs his hair and screams in horror. This is no longer just a game. Confirming this, Zhang Yi turns to them and announces that if they die here, they will die in reality. This is a battle for life. Outside, their train sits in the middle of a rocky desert while huge spiders head towards it. The system finally announces the survival mission. They must find a safe area. Players must follow the map to find the 886 safe zone in the 8th district, the City of Hope. In the city of Nejda, their safety is guaranteed. The remaining time is 3 hours 58 minutes. The reward will be the opportunity to be reborn. If you fail, death follows. A girl with blue hair gathered in a bun, covering her mouth with her hand, asks in horror what they need to do. They were surrounded by monsters. A guy in a vest and shirt standing nearby notes that it looks like all they can do is gather their strength and attack them head-on. Yi at this moment is examining the upper shelves, and suddenly finding something, he takes it out, remembering that in his past life, Someone in the 7th car used a safety hammer as a weapon. It ended up being a blue-quality camouflaged weapon, so other players were very jealous. When the hammer actually turns into a bladed weapon, he notes with pleasure that he knew it. System Fire explains that this item is a rare blue-quality blade. It refers to the type of weapon. The description says that it is made from cold and meteorite iron. At the same time, Zhang Yi, opening his eyes, mentally adds, "Moreover, there is also a treasure chest hidden in this carriage." His pupils turn yellow, and the system window says that the treasure hunter has been activated. Inspecting the carriage with the help of a special vision reminiscent of an X-ray, he sees how under one of the seats a system points to an unknown object. Coming closer and looking down, he finds a chest. When it opens, the system explains that inside there is a potion of dragon breath with a blue quality. This item is a potion type. The description of this is that this potion is not to be underestimated. It contains a powerful dragon's breath. The next moment, he jumps up and breaks through the roof of the carriage and scatters several spiders in different directions. On the fly, he manages to cut one monster and ride another. The players remaining in the carriage scream enthusiastically. Everyone should see this guy's weapon. It's blue quality. He's incredible. Zhang swings his blade, disposing of the monster again. But the spiders are advancing, and the voice of someone from the carriage is heard again. Surrounded by so many spiders, even if someone has this legendary weapon, that person must try very hard. This fool looks like he really wants to die. Yi, running away from one of them, understands that this is not enough. He needs more. Finally stop and unfold. A small jar of potion appears in his hand, which he carefully opens and says he will allow the spiders to try the dragon's breath potion. Throwing it at monsters, he shouts, "Go ahead." Dragon flame. A jar of yellow liquid flies up to the spiders, and almost immediately the glass cracks, followed by a bright, fiery explosion. Several system windows immediately appear in front of Zhang Yi, saying that he has raised the level. 50 copper coins were received. A life potion was obtained. He, standing on one of the corpses of the spiders, mentally notes that he did not think that it would be so useful. It would be great if he could get a few more dragon's breath potions. The players, clinging to the glass of the carriage and watching him run away, exclaim, "What? He killed everyone with one attack. This is definitely cheating. Why don't we go and create a team with him? This guy seems like he has a lot of potential." As evening falls, Zhang Yi slowly walks between high cliffs covered with forest and reasons that he just needs to follow the map to the City of Hope. You suddenly hear whose experience this is, which makes you wary. But the next moment a man runs up to him, who desperately grabs him and asks him to save his daughter. She was taken into the forest by a monster. Yi, looking away, remembers that in his past life, many players got into trouble in this forest. But there should be a lot of good things hidden in this forest. And while he is thinking about this, the brown-haired man also turns away from him and smiles, and his facial expression takes on a creepy form. Large bats fly up from under the leafy trees towards the night moon, while Zhang Yi walks along a forest path and calls out to a stranger who was nearby just recently, "Where exactly is his daughter?" The forest is big, but the answer is only silence, and turning to where the man stood earlier, he asks in confusion where he went. When he turns away, 2 red eyes light up not far from him, but without noticing this, he decides out loud, okay, he'll just go forward. While he silently walks along the path, someone is closely watching him. Suddenly, among the dense thickets of bushes, a lollipop with a bow and a crying girl holding it are visible. Approaching her, Zhang Yi leans over and tries to calm her down. It's dangerous for her to wander alone. It's better for him to take her. But he doesn't have time to finish speaking when a woman with long purple hair and those same red eyes comes out to them. She thanks the frightened man who deceived Yi, which makes him wary. She stopped and carefully examined him from head to toe and said, "The guy brought another prey to her." A system window appears in front of Zhang Yi, in which the task is written, rescuing the girl. He must help the girl lost in the dark forest return to the City of Hope. The remaining time is 59 minutes. The reward is the waist ring. There is no punishment for failure. After reading this, he frowns and thinks that in a past life, as he remembers, many players came across this hidden quest while exploring the dark forest. Many people happily took on the task because of the rewards and experience gained, and he also cannot miss this opportunity. The system, as if reading his thoughts, notes that the task has been accepted. The next moment, the mysterious woman loses her attractive image and turns into a huge monster with the body of a spider. At the same time, she orders you to stand still and let her eat it. The girl, frightened, begins to cry even louder, but he confidently orders her not to run away. Now he will sort it out and take her to the village. As soon as a blade appears in his hand, he immediately approaches the monster girl. But after trying to hit one of her paws, he suddenly wonders, "Skin of steel," she exclaims, laughing evilly, that his physical attacks are nothing against her. She then pushes him back, but Zhang Yi still doesn't fall and get hurt. At the same moment, a system spirit appears next to him, who tells him that the lovely spider is a rank 20 boss. Now his skills are not enough to win. It is better for him to abandon the quest and leave. But he emphatically announces that he has no intention of escaping alone. Then she bows to him and says that in any case, this is the only way to survive. She trusts that he will do the right thing. He frowns and shouts loudly, "No!" Running towards the girl of monsters, he adds that everything will not end so simply. At the same time, Zhang Yi mentally notes that in the real world, there was a video that there was a hidden chest nearby. Maybe it contains a book with a skill that will help him win. As soon as he opens his eyes, the system immediately announces that the treasure hunter skill has been activated. On the ground between the trees and dense thickets of bushes, a chest is actually shown to him, to which he is heading. The spider smiles evilly and tries to stop him with her paws, but he manages to get around it. She suddenly realizes that she was not the target of his attack. Finally, he gets to the chest and hurries to open it while she concentrates or electric discharges in her palm, and other creepy spiders rush to deal with him. But the system congratulates Zhang Yi for acquiring a blue quality item. This item is a skill book called Lightning Chain. Taking it out, he happily thinks, he was right. There is a hidden skill here. Then the characteristics of this open in a new system window. The main item is rare. It is similar in type to a skill book. The required rank is 20th. The instructions for use do not say that the book releases a chain of lightning that can bounce from enemy to enemy, causing 200 points of damage. Each attack that kills an enemy increases the chain's damage by 10%. The monster girl sends even more spiders to Yi and orders them to destroy him. He does not pay any attention to them, and when he places his palm on the cover of the book, a congratulation appears in the system window on the fact that he has acquired a blue quality item. Powerful discharges of energy burst upward and approach the spider, which she does not expect at all. Zhang Yi directs these blows at her, screams for her to now know the power of a real attack. Soon she is defeated, and he thinks with pleasure that a system window appears in front of him again, in which it says that he is receiving an epic weapon, a poisonous dagger. Taking the weapon in his hands, he thinks contentedly, he got a great catch today. Violet shows the characteristics of this item. It refers to the poisonous epic dagger. It belongs to the weapon type. The description says that this is a blade saturated with poison. It poisons the enemy, dealing 20 damage per second. Despite the joy he received from the awards he received, Zhang does not forget about the girl, and going down the hill with her, near which the city building is shown, he announces that now everything is fine. They can go home. She, holding his hand tightly, joyfully thanks him. When they approach the City of Hope, they pass over the bridge and glance at strangers, on whose faces anger can be read. Suddenly a man runs up behind Lu Cheng's, who is standing there, and excitedly asks, "Isn't this the guy who stole the boss's divine talent card?" Chengji, clenching his fists, immediately orders him not to take his eyes off him. When Yi and a little girl walk through the streets of the city, she suddenly stops, looking at him with large, childishly naive eyes. She says that she is grateful to him. Now she has returned home. A ring immediately appears in Zhang Yi's palm, and the system explains that the Thalia ring increases luck by 55 points. It congratulates him on completing a secret mission and receiving a reward. He immediately thinks contentedly. It turns out that it was equipment for good luck. In the apocalypse, luck is a rare attribute. The higher the player's luck, the more generous the reward for the task will be. Suddenly, he is brought out of his thoughts by someone's scream. Players should not miss this. Looking to the side, He sees people crowding around a man forging a sword. While the blonde is doing his job, system notifications about successful improvement appear around him. He also loudly adds, "Players must pay for the upgrade." He doesn't take money for failure. Approaching one of the random strangers, Zhang Yi wonders if he is using cheats. How can the chance of successful improvement be so high? But the guy in shorts replies that he just doesn't understand it. His talent is forging and improving. When a man shows everyone a sword with a thin, shiny blade, then two women nearby exclaim enthusiastically, "This is amazing. He was able to forge such a powerful weapon." He frowns and thinks he should try it. Afterwards, he touches the blonde's shoulder with his palm, and the system announces the successful copying of the epic talent for forging and improvement. The chance of successfully upgrading equipment has been increased by 50%. Then Zhang Yi takes out his poisonous dagger and, holding a hammer, hits the blade of it. The system immediately sends notifications about successful improvement from the 2nd to the 15th level. Then, having taken the blade in his hands, he understands that with this talent, he does not need to worry at all about improving his equipment in the future. This could also be a good business opportunity. The people around him at this moment are shocked, and therefore scream, "Everyone should see it." This guy has an epic plus 15 weapon. Plus 15 is already quite hard to find, so it's also epic rarity. Where did this guy come from? Yi, not responding to their cries, yawns and the level on his endurance scale drops to the red mark. The system further explains that his stamina has dropped to a minimum. He should go to the nearest tavern and rest. Zhang Yi, without any resistance at all, goes in search of this establishment together with the system spirit and notes, "Okay, then first he will rest, then he will go to level up." After some time, he reaches the tavern, which is a special place where players can rest after the battle. Approaching the bar counter, he says, "One room." The man, handing him the key, exclaims, "Good." Well, suddenly you hear two guys at the next table very actively discussing something. The blonde exclaims that this guy is very lucky. He was even able to obtain an epic weapon. The brown-haired man next to him adds, "Did he see the World Channel? Someone was able to complete a secret mission in the dark forest." He, understanding what they are talking about, mentally repeats, "Luck is also a part of the body." But he will do his best to balance these two characteristics. Having reached the room, Zhang Yi lies down on the bed and crosses his legs and thinks, moving on, he needs to get to level 20 as quickly as possible and change his profession. This way he can learn stronger skills. In the system window that appears, it is explained about the change of profession. After the player reaches level 20, he can change his profession to one of 7 classes: Knight, Berserker, Assassin, Mage, Archer, Priest, and Beast Tamer. Suddenly he remembers Mu Chen and still thinks with the same hatred that when they meet, he will pay for the betrayal. The next day, when he leaves the tavern and walks through the dense green forest, he glances sharply to the side and exclaims, "They should stop hiding and come out." Footsteps are immediately heard around and Lu Cheng's, coming out from behind the tree, angrily exclaims, "Last time he was very lucky, but now they will see if the guy can escape again." There is a crowd of people behind Zhang Yi, and he calmly turns around and sees that they are all surrounded by a red glow, and the system announces that the forced PC mode has been activated. Chengji announces decisively, "They can begin." But in response, he activates 2 energy clots in his palms and answers, "They can try." He just wanted to show him a new skill, Chain Lightning. But when one of the elements disappears, he asks in confusion what happened. Was he silenced? A sign with a crossed-out head actually appears above his head, which means silence does not allow the use of skills. Lu Cheng's, standing in front of the magician who cast this spell, explains that he will not be able to use the skills for 2 whole minutes. He should just accept his fate. The next moment, one of his subordinates runs up to Zhang Yi and hits him. But he just crosses his arms and looks at him boredly. Walking back, the brown-haired man with a sword in his hand wonders what's going on. He takes no damage. The blonde next to him adds, "His equipment is too powerful. Their damage is not enough." Then Cheng steps in and shouts that they're just a bunch of idiots. They should get out of the way and see how it should be done. Yi, seeing that a weapon appears in his hands, surrounded by blue light, realizes that his weapon is a blue rarity, and it has been improved to 15%. Standing under the treetops, Lu Cheng's pulls the bowstring and shouts that now they will see if the guy can also calmly withstand this. With these words, he releases an arrow, which, hanging above Zhang Yi, shoots down a meteor shower of arrows. 5, 20, 15, 30, 50 health points are immediately subtracted from his health. But he thinks without getting upset. The total number of arrows exceeds 100, so he can meet all the conditions. Next he shouts to the infernal dragon to appear. A huge fire-breathing monster flies out from behind the rocks, causing people to scream in fear. A hellish dragon. They must run away. He, extending his palm in their direction, declares, "Hell Dragon Flame." The terrible monster immediately incinerates the guys, who run in horror in different directions. When he is left alone, with only small fires burning out around him, Zhang Yi sees a bow lying nearby. Walking up and taking it, he notes out loud that initially he was a little worried about how he would reach level 20. Now he is very grateful for the experience and equipment. The system explains that this item is a Silver Moon Bow Plus 15. It has a blue rarity and is a bow type. The suggested skill of this weapon is Meteor Shower and Arrows. The arrow at that moment splits into 100 pieces and falls from the sky like meteorites. Reading this, he smiles because he understands how lucky he is. The streets of the City of Hope are filled with people going about their own business. While life is in full swing in the city, Lu Cheng's and his gang appear in the Fountain of Rebirth, the place where the player returns after death with a chance for rebirth. At the same moment, he walks towards them with a light step and, defiantly showing the acquired weapon, says that he is very grateful for the Bow of the Silver Moon. This will be very useful for him. After these words, he turns away, and Cheng's, flashing with a bright flame, shouts after him that in the future he will pay for this. The guy just has to wait. Zhang Yi, throwing both hands behind his head, mockingly replies, Of course. Good luck to him with that. Soon he walks along the street, whistling with the warm rays of the sun, and stopping opposite the profession change officer. He declares that he wants to change his profession. Then the man extends his hand in his direction and sends a glowing red funnel. With the words, "The profession change dungeon is open." It grows in size, and he calmly enters, after which the portal closes. But at the same time it opens on the other side, and when he comes out, finding himself in a room with high ceilings and white walls, with carved columns, he looks around. Observing many people in various costumes around, he mentally notes that the 7 great professions of the apocalypse are knight, berserker, assassin, mage, archer, priest, and beast tamer. The most unpopular profession is animal tamer. Then he thoughtfully walks along the wall, near which sits a man in a robe with a hood. Zhang Yi continues to think that although tamers can force their beasts to do all the dirty work, raising them is quite difficult. He imagines how many creatures with sharp fangs surround him, and he tearfully screams that he does not want to choose. Although around this man, rushes about in thought, when raising animals, all the resources received are divided between the tamer and the animals. Apocalypse resources are very rare, so in the future, due to lack of resources, tamers simply will not be able to develop, which makes them the weakest profession. The most suitable professions for the dragon race are knight and beast thief. Knight sounds like a good choice. However, with his strong start, he becomes weaker in the later stages of the game. In the past life, many players died because of this. But the beast tamer is unique. Thanks to divine talent, he will be able to receive 10 times more resources than others. Using the dragon race, he will be able to get strong companions and create the perfect team. Having finally decided this, he goes to the mysterious man from whom a luminous aura emanates. The man, looking up at him, says that he has been waiting here for a very long time. But his system spirit flies up to Yi, who advises him to carefully consider his choice. The right profession will make his life much easier. He raises his hand to the system window, in which the question is indicated. Is he sure that he wants to become a beast tamer? Zhang Yi exclaims and clicks on the answer yes and adds, he chooses this. When the man immediately extends his index finger to him, and touching his forehead, says that he congratulates him on becoming an animal tamer. He is immediately surrounded by pink streams, and a brown ring with a purple stone appears on his hand. After some time, when the day is drawing to a close in the City of Hope, the officer, turning to Zhang Yi, finally announces that he congratulates him on his successful change of profession. At that moment, two men pass by him, heatedly discussing something. A tall guy with a plaster on his face and a torn jacket on his sleeve complains. He told him from the very beginning that the city of dead spirits is very dangerous. Because of an elite monster, they all died. He lost only his equipment and life points. This simply cannot be. His interlocutor with a broken arm is also angry. Who could have known that an ordinary monster could be so strong? Don't just blame him for everything. Why didn't he ever say anything when they came in? He, looking after them, thinks, the city of dead spirits. This is the first dungeon. With the experience from his past life and a properly assembled team, killing the boss should not be difficult. Just at this moment, nearby, a man in a green jacket loudly shouts that they are looking for players in the city of dead spirits who have reached level 20 and have changed their profession. 2 spots left. A girl, whose face is hidden under a black robe, immediately approaches them and asks if they still have places. They can take her on their team. The brunette, holding out his hand to her, exclaims kindly, "Beautiful magician." Yes, they have a place, so they are happy to welcome her. Zhang Yi, also not wanting to waste his chance, runs towards them and shouts for them to wait for him. He's going there too. They should take him too. When the guy notices him, they start thinking, are they just an animal tamer who has changed professions? This means that most likely he is just a magician without skills. But they need one more person. Sighing heavily, he agrees, okay. When their team is assembled, then with the onset of evening they enter the city of dead spirits. When they walk across a field in which gnarled stumps and fallen wooden crosses stick out of the ground, they are blown by a cold wind, driving black clouds across the sky. The man walking at the head of everyone turns to Yi. The guy behind him didn't see the news on the World Channel. Beast Tamer has the lowest damage of all. He responds, confused, that he chose this profession because he likes raising animals. The girl next to him hearing this, suddenly a sharp arrow flies to the side and crashes into the ground, barely missing anyone. The brown-haired man immediately shouts to everyone to be careful, enemies are approaching. And the very next moment, skeletons armed with swords and pickaxes actually crawl out of the ground. The man kills one of these with his sword and turns around shouting to the others that he is leaving ranged monsters on them. The magician girl immediately grabs her staff and, throwing off her robe, waves it, sending fire at the skeletons, which incinerates them. When one of the skeletons grabs her hostage from behind and presses a sword to her throat, Zhang Yi comes into play. He activates his abilities and summons a flock of crows. Birds attack skeletons, and the system explains that calling a flock of crows is a basic skill for animal taming. He summons a deadly gate to distract the enemy and deal 50 magic damage. The monster that attacked the girl is enclosed in a purple sphere, which she runs up and deals with it. When she turns to him, her frightened eyes show gratitude for him. Zhang Yi rarely grabs her wrist and, approaching the other guys on the team, shouts that the monsters are undead, so they will come to life soon. They need to get out of here. The brunette commands everyone to keep moving forward. After some time, he manages to get to a tall and creepy castle with a red light on the gate. He notes that the boss is inside. The tactics are simple. The knight must aggro the boss and will tank, and they will deal damage from the back. They only need to dodge the AO magician and the boss in the second stage. The man, hearing this, frowns and asks in surprise how he knows everything so well. Has he already been here? Zhang Yi, smiling excitedly, immediately lies. No, he's just speaking from experience playing online games. Armed with a poisonous dagger, he approaches the castle gates, and the system that appears in front of the brown-haired man reveals all the characteristics of this weapon. A mysterious, creepy smile appears on his face, and he wonders, plus 15 poisonous dagger. How can an ordinary beginner have an epic weapon and also such knowledge about dungeons? He's definitely lying. He's sure this guy has a lot of good stuff. Looks like they'll make big profits this time. Yi, approaching the entrance, pushes the gate, and they all go into a stone hall with a high ceiling and many windows. Below, torches with red flames are burning, and in the middle you can see someone's throne. When he and the girl go inside, the faces of the other 3 people are distorted into terrible grimaces with grins. They remain outside, and the door slams sharply. But still the voice of the guys is heard, which explains that the guy and the girl can stay here, and they will return soon. The brown-haired girl screams irritably, and in response, what are they doing? They're on the same team. But Zhangyi, having guessed everything, says that it looks like they were on a bad team. They want the boss to get rid of them, after which they will take away the experience and reward. The next moment, the clanking of chains is heard, and the space in front of them is filled with blue smoke. In the midst of this, someone shouts that it is too late. He is already here. A huge icicle with a sharp tip is pointed to the side, but he grabs the girl's hand and covers her. When the icicle breaks into pieces, she replies, he saved her again. She is grateful to him. An undead archmage of level 30 is heading to the side. Jumping up, he creates 2 huge ice balls in his 2 hands, causing Zhangyi to shout that without a tank, they won't be able to withstand the boss's attack. Then the girl hits the floor with her fingers, creating a special seal. Skeletons in black robes and with glowing purple eyes immediately emerge from the ground, and she explains that these are undead wars, which she summoned with the talent of summoning souls. But they won't last long. They need to figure out how to get out of here. Summon Souls is a divine talent card. It summons dead creatures that will fight on the player's side. This talent lasts 5 minutes and has a 5-hour cooldown. The warriors actually group together to create a shield that offers resistance. But it still turns out to be not so durable and cracks. He shouts to the girl that he just needs a little time. He knows this boss's weakness, so she can leave the rest to him. Our shade clenches his teeth and resolutely shouts that she will cover him. Next, she uses multiple fireballs while the skeletons arrive at the archmage. He, looking at them with red burning eyes, is preparing for a counterattack. Zhang Yi suddenly notices that the red stone on the back of the archmage's neck is his source of energy. Also this is his weakness. Then he creates a special seal and again summons flocks of crows. Grabbing the tail of one of the birds, he flies up, and the boss notices him. But he quickly swings his blade, causing a heavy groan from the archmage to be heard. The blade of the weapon comes straight towards the stone, destroying it. The boss turns out to be the surface, Zhang Yi's system with the fact that he defeated the undead archmage. Level increased to 25, and the Staff of Flowing Light was received. This is an epic rarity. It is a staff type. The suggested skill is called Icy Wind Scream. It releases a blizzard that freezes enemies within 100 meters for 5 seconds and deals 500 magic damage. Recharge time is 1 hour. He notes it with delight. An epic staff with a drop rate of 2%. But then he hands it to the girl to the magician, causing her to ask in confusion, is this for her? He explains with a smile that this is a weapon for a magician. It is completely useless for an animal tamer. Besides, if she had not used her talent, they would have died already. 3 guys, standing on the street, are still listening to the sounds. Finally, the blonde, turning to the brown-haired man, notes that the movement inside has stopped. The boss should have dealt with them by now. Then the captain throws his cleaver over his shoulder and exclaims joyfully, they can go. It's time to take their trophies. But the man in the red robe barely has time to touch the doors, when suddenly someone breaks them down on the other side. When the doors open, a blue glow rushes from the room, and the blonde man asks in confusion, did the 2 of them survive? Zhang Yi, wiping the bleeding corner of his mouth, angrily asks, what? Are they upset that they didn't see corpses in their place? The guy notes in a trembling voice that they were able to kill the boss. Looks like they underestimated them. The brown-haired man, thrusting his sword into the ground, asks the rest of his assistants what are they afraid of. They should definitely be on their last legs. After this, the captain and the blonde attack them. The brown-haired man even jumps up, swinging his weapon. He is here with his teeth, displeasedly asking why they give their comrades. In the face of this man, he remembers Mu Chen. Then he grabs the girl by the hand, which she is surprised at. The system announces the successful copying of the divine talent of Calling To. It summons dead creatures that will fight on the player's side. It lasts for 5 minutes, and the recharge time is 24 hours. The captain is already approaching them closely when Zhang Yi shouts for the soul of the undead archmage to be reborn. He actually appears behind them and turns them into huge blocks of ice in an instant. He adds that the guys are very unlucky. Before they find themselves broken like ice into small pieces, they scream, this can't be. How did he revive the boss? No. But after a couple of moments, the system announces that the players Wang Hao, Du Wei, and Su Yu were attacked by the soul of an undead archmage. The system determined that they had no chance of revival. They're dead. As soon as Zhang Yi hears, he is suddenly overcome by a terrible weakness, causing him to fall to the ground. The brown-haired girl immediately sits down next to him and examines him with concern. Information appears in the system window that the player's stamina has reached a minimum. He should quickly go to the rest area. He, before closing his eyes and plunging into darkness, wonders what is happening. He is so tired, he wants to sleep. Suddenly, he is immersed in memories from his childhood. And someone's voice is heard from the TV congratulating him. The screen shows a ranking where number 1 is Z and number 2 is Zhang Yi. He, as a child, leans back on the sofa and exclaims he is tired of these games. When will his father buy him something new? A man in a formal suit, sitting in a chair, gets up and, going to the window, answers that if he defeats him, he will buy a new game. Then he enthusiastically asks, "Really? Fine. He will definitely get first place." But the man, without answering him, takes the book and leaves. Then he just looks after his father and mentally addresses him. Now he is stuck in the game, and it looks like he won't be able to play the new game anymore. With the onset of a sunny day, light penetrates the tavern room, and Zhang Yi sat on the bed, tiredly rubbing his head and groaning. How it hurts. How long did he sleep? Looking around while he was pouring water into the mug, he suddenly notices a piece of paper on the tube and wonders what. Where is this letter from? He immediately goes to it and starts reading. Earlier, the magician girl wrote to him that she was grateful to him for saving him. When he sees this letter, most likely, she will already leave in search of her older brother. At the end of the storage, there are all the things that those people had. Perhaps someday they will be useful to him. She hopes that they will meet again in the future. Signature from Hanyaru. Zhang Yi took the ring and said her name and squeezed it tightly. A system window appears in front of him, showing various items. When he sees this, he exclaims contentedly, "It looks like this group killed a lot of players. There is so much here." Clicking on the map, he adds that now he doesn't have to worry about equipment at all. Then all he had to do was find the beast. If his memory serves him right, there is a hidden dragon crown tomb dungeon in the northern part. This is the only dungeon that animals can get into right up to level 40. But naturally, it is not so simple. He needs to choose his teammates wisely. If he comes across players like Wang Hao, then he will not deal with all the problems that arise in this case. Soon he goes out onto the streets of the city, and his thoughts are occupied by the fact that he needs to find reliable teammates. This is much easier said than done.
Thank you for watching.